Hello, folks. Thank you for joining us again. I am Rebecca Adams, and I have the one and only Becky Vermeire with me tonight.
Ooh, how are you?
Mrs. Doubtfire has joined us once again.
One of these days, I'm going to get the cake and put it on my face and say, "Hello," like Mrs. Doubtfire does in the movie.
Exactly.
You won't know what to do when I'm covered in frosting.
I will sit here and laugh until I can't talk anymore.
We'll have no episode. It'll just be us cackling.
That would be fun. A lot of fun. Oh, goodness.
It could happen.
Yes. Oh, it could. And I'm waiting. And the best part is that it'll be recorded. And I could turn just that into a YouTube short. That would be fun.
It would be fun.
It would be. You might want to take your glasses off before you do that, though.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Might be a good idea. I can't
Yeah.
keep my glasses clean anyway. Putting frosting into the mix, I think, would make it nearly impossible.
I promise you that it would. I had a friend in grade school who smashed some cotton candy in my glasses. I
Oh,
promise
no.
you. Yeah, I promise you it is not easy to clean off.
I wouldn't want to try.
I was mad at her. I
Oh, yeah.
rarely get mad at somebody. I got mad at her.
Oh, yeah. I would be angry about that, too.
Yeah. Well, I love the topic we're talking about, but before we get to that, you have some socks to show us.
I do. So picture it. Circa 1993.
Okay.
One of the greatest movies of all time hit the big screen.
I don't know.
Jurassic Park.
Oh, you don't.
One of the greatest movies of all time that the day that it opened in theaters, I was in the seat.
No way.
I've lived since. So tonight, I will
Ooh,
be highlighting my Jurassic Park socks.
look at that.
That's right. T-Rex himself is on my socks.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
You better not let my grandsons get around those. Those might disappear.
They can't have them. I love that movie.
Do
That was one of
you?
the most fun movies I ever saw in a movie theater to this day. And I've seen all of them, but the very first time, that was fantastic.
That must have been amazing to see on the big screen.
I've gotten to see it since on the IMAX screen, which is even more amazing. I
Oh.
know. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That
I
was
happen to be a big
incredible.
fan.
Wow. Well, then you know what you can talk to my grandsons about
That's right.
next time. Oh, wow.
We'll dinosaur it up. We'll have some dino talk.
There you go. They would love that. They would both absolutely love it.
You got a new pair of earrings to show us tonight?
I do. I do. And these don't have any color, I don't think. Nope. They don't have any color in them.
Ooh, nice.
What do you suppose I paid for those?
$5.
How did you guess?
Because I've decided that $5 is your catchphrase.
Well, it's my price.
Because you make me think of my sister. My sister has been in the flea market business her whole life. And so in addition, when you buy things for your booth, sometimes you go to thrift shops, sometimes you go to yard sales, whatever. And so my sister's catchphrase is always thrift shop, 50 cents. And so now yours is $5.
But there will be a time in the future that I wear another pair of earrings that I bought on Friday, and they were not $5.
Uh-oh.
They were more than that. Yep. Yep.
That's going to mess with me. I
Well,
won't know how to behave when you do that.
we'll just have to mess with you.
I guess so. It'll be okay.
Yeah, it will be. You'll make it, Becky.
I think so. I think I can handle it. Because I know Because there are times my sister buys something brand spanking new, it's not 50 cents, and I can handle that. So I got it. It'll be all right.
Okay. All right. I'm glad you can handle it.
It's the small things.
It is. It is.
That's what always pushes you over the edge, the little things.
Yes, very definitely.
Yeah.
Well, I'm loving this topic tonight that we're discussing. And this is episode 3, and I'm just
Wow.
loving it. Yeah. So we are talking about healthy, unhealthy, and abusive relationships. And this is such a beautiful job of laying it out very clearly. And I love how you pointed out in episode 1 that you can be in an unhealthy relationship, but that does not mean that it's abusive. I love that.
Yes. And I think people need to definitely be aware of that. And again, I know I'm being redundant right now, but we need to remember that an abusive relationship is purposeful behavior done for one specific intent to maintain power and control over their partner.
Mm-hmm.
You can be unhealthy and not be motivated to maintain power and control. You're just not capable.
Right.
You can fix unhealthy a lot easier than you can fix abuse. Yeah.
Good point.
And so we left off on our last episode. We had talked about communication, respect, and trust. And so what I'd like to start with talking about tonight is what do you think honesty looks like in a healthy relationship? Excuse me.
That no matter how hard the truth is, you tell the truth. Even if you're concerned that it's going to be hurtful to that other person, you're going to be very careful about how you word it, that you word it so that it's the least amount of hurt possible, but you will be honest no matter what.
Yes. And there's a part 2 to that I think is also important. You can be in an honest relationship, but you can still keep things private if you need to.
Mm-hmm.
And so a healthy relationship, we've talked about the fact that there's trust. We've talked about the fact that there's respect, but there's also that respect for the other person's boundaries. We haven't talked about boundaries yet. We'll get to that. But if I have things that are so just personal,
Mm-hmm.
deep, intimate, personal, that I choose to keep to myself, in a healthy relationship with someone, they will respect my right to privacy like that. I don't have to talk about all of the things. And let's talk about, because this is a program where we focus a lot about domestic violence and sexual violence.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about someone who's starting a relationship with someone who has come out of an abusive relationship.
Mm-hmm.
You want honesty. So the new person is going to ask you, tell me about your story, tell me about your situation. But if you go so far and you say, that's all I can talk about, a healthy relationship will say, I respect your right to stop talking. And not badger, and not pry, and not coerce, and not convince, just to say it's okay that you've got things you don't want to talk about with me.
Mm-hmm.
And legitimately be okay with
Mm-hmm.
relationship. And that's what honesty looks like in a healthy relationship.
That's good.
Yeah. And so let's talk about honesty in an unhealthy relationship. Can you use the word honesty in an unhealthy relationship? Or do you use the word dishonesty?
I would say dishonesty. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so what does that look like?
Well, the example that comes in my mind is I went to go pick a friend up who lived in a second story apartment. And so I'm down here on the main level in the parking lot, and I'm looking up there and I see this person, and it just so happened that the topic was smoking. Okay. And so that person was up there smoking inside their apartment. And then in a later conversation, that was brought up, and that person said they didn't smoke. I just saw it with my own two eyes. Don't gaslight me.
Cigarette coming in and out of your mouth.
Yes, yes, the smoke, Yeah. So that's dishonest, and that person would not admit to it,
Yeah,
and that was unhealthy.
completely unhealthy. So you're talking about two people that lie to each other or they omit. I didn't lie. Okay, you're right. You didn't. You just left that chunk of the story out that was pretty important to the story.
Yeah.
Or you're sharing some obscure facts that mean nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here's the facts, right? But
Mm-hmm.
the facts and the actual story don't line up. So it's not completely honest, it's obscure.
Yeah.
So earlier, when we were talking in a former episode about trust, that goes hand in hand with that inability to trust the person because, again, they're completely comfortable being just. And so lying destroys that foundation of the relationship. Because, again, I think that trust is the foundation of any good relationship. And so omitting details is just as bad as making them up
Mm-hmm.
or sharing one little piece. Trying to think of a story that I could use as an example of that. Um,
Well, maybe in that scenario, okay, yeah, I tried a cigarette once
yeah,
about 10 years ago.
yeah, right.
Mm.
Or I was late on the way home tonight because I got a speeding ticket because I was speeding, but I omitted the fact that I had just left the bar and I was also drunk and I got a DWI.
Mhm. Right, right,
Right?
yes. Yeah.
So later on, then when you find out that person got a DWI and you're like, you said you got a speeding ticket. Well, I did. I left out that little fact.
Yeah, that
Right.
one
And so
minor
then
part.
you can't necessarily then there's that dishonesty. So I don't trust you now.
Yeah.
And so that's the relationship. So then what do you think honesty looks like in an abusive relationship, or shall I say dishonesty?
Dishonesty. I mean, the victim can be completely honest 100% of the time, but the abuser, they'll be honest if they feel like being honest. And if they don't
Right,
feel like being honest, they're going to be dishonest. And you better
right.
not try to question them.
Yeah. And I might even challenge you on saying that the victim can be honest 100% of the time.
Well, that's
Because I
true.
think I
Mhm,
think even a victim in that scenario learns how to omit
mhm,
or cover up. Who did you see? Nobody. Who did you talk to? Nobody.
mhm,
When you saw your ex-boyfriend from high school, which means nothing to you now, but if you tell your abuser,
mhm.
you're going to be physically abused because of it.
Yep.
And so I think that even if you're basically upright and honest person moving into that abusive relationship, I think your abuser takes away your to be honest.
Mhm.
And so, the consequences always in all of these scenarios that we're talking about, when you're in a relationship with an abuser, the consequences always verbal, emotional, physical, intellectual, sexual assault. It's always one or all of those things, depending on the type of abuser that you live with.
I've even seen it played out to where in a scenario like that, it even turns into financial abuse.
Yes.
Mhm. Well, you
Yeah.
know what? If I can't trust you with this, then you know what? Then you're not going to get this. You're not going to have access to the checking account, or you're not going to have, you know, all the money I used to give you for groceries. You're only going to get this amount now, or
Yeah.
however that would look.
Right. Or I can't trust you at all to go to the grocery store because that's where you ran into this person you forgot to tell me that you ran into.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have to go with you, or else I'll have to go and get the groceries
Yeah.
from now on. Hmm.
And if I have to go get the groceries, I'm going to be angry at you, going to belittle you and yell at you as soon as I get home because you made me go to the grocery store.
Hmm. Yeah.
It's that vicious cycle. And so that's the thing is I don't think lying is okay, but it's easier to be lied to than it is to deal with that other situation.
Hmm.
But both are unhealthy, but one's very abusive.
What do you recommend that person that is in the unhealthy relationship and is just beginning to see some of these things, such as lying? All right. What do you recommend that they do, or what would you do in that situation? You have just met somebody and you're thinking, I think I could really like this situation. I could like this relationship. It could be good. But then you catch them lying or whatever the case may be.
Mhm.
How would you handle that?
If I'm coming from a healthy relationship perspective, I'm going to say, why did you lie to me? And then the person who lied, coming at it from the unhealthy perspective, may say, I didn't lie to you, because they're going to continue the lie.
Yeah.
But if I know for a fact they did, I will pursue it. I know
Mhm.
for a fact that you lied to me. Why did you lie to me? Or you may not be willing to admit it today, but don't ever lie to me again, because I'm not going to be in a relationship with you. If whatever that is. But I think if you're coming at that from the healthy perspective, you have to address it.
Mhm.
I know that you lied in the same way when your kids lie to you. Your kids lie to you. You want to be a healthy parent. I
Mhm.
know you're lying to me. No, I'm not. Yes, you are lying to me. No, I'm not. And they may never admit it. Well, because I know you're lying to me, there's a consequence to that. And this is the
Yeah.
consequence. Don't lie to me anymore. And a
Mhm.
lot of times the kids will suffer the consequence and then come back and say, I'm sorry, mom, I lied to you.
Mhm.
Maybe in an unhealthy relationship, that person will come back and say, it won't. But we're about to get close to talking about boundaries. And so that's a boundary if you're a healthy person, is you can't lie to me. So if you're going to continue to lie to me, I can't be in a relationship with you. That's not a threat. That's not a threat. That's just for my own safety,
Mhm.
for my sanity and peace of mind, I cannot continue to choose to be in a relationship with someone who's a liar.
But that person that you have just said that to could perceive it as a threat.
Certainly they could.
And then how would you handle it at that point?
I'm not threatening you. I'm just telling you that you're crossing the line.
Mhm.
You don't have to fight about it. Like if you're coming at it from the healthy perspective, let's talk about this.
Mhm.
You can't solve a problem unless both people are willing to admit it's a problem.
That's
I
good.
can problem solve all day long, but if you're not willing to admit that it's a problem, my problem solving is bunk. It's not
Yeah.
going to accomplish anything.
Right.
But if you're willing to admit it's a problem, then we can solve on it, right? We can work on it and we can fix it. But if you're committed to being healthy, then that's what you have to say is, I know that you're lying to me. Don't lie to me anymore. I can't be in a relationship with someone who lies.
Mhm.
If I want to be healthy and you say that to me and I want to be healthy, I'm going to start working on that behavior and start trying to be honest. So then the
Mhm.
other person who said you can't lie to me anymore, if that unhealthy person starts to want to be honest, you have to receive it as truth. That's the thing. If you're going to be healthy, you have to receive it as truth. You can't just say, well, you lied to me once, you're always going to lie to me, because you're not giving permission for the other person to change.
At what point do you allow that to continue? Let's say they slip up, and I use that loosely, and they lie again. Then what do you do?
It's a personal perspective. I mean, it's
Mhm.
up to the person in the relationship. How far are you willing to go?
Mhm.
As someone knows that when people change their behavior, it's one step forward and two steps back, and then 4 steps forward and 1 step back. You're in the process of trying to change. So when you're trying to change your behavior, just because you're committed to changing your behavior does not mean 100% from this day forward, I'm going to have changed behavior.
Mhm.
A lot of factors play into that. If I'm stressed, or if I'm tired, or if I'm nervous, or if I'm scared, or whatever it is, I may fall back into my old pattern.
Mhm.
But because you accidentally fall back into your old pattern today, doesn't mean you're always going to stay in your old pattern.
Right.
When I think about it, I think about it in terms of like dieting. Let's talk about that again for a second, because that's something a lot of people do,
Mhm.
right? I'm committed to losing 20 pounds. And so for the next 5 days, I'm on it. On day 6, I eat everything in sight. On day 7, I start to eat everything in sight. I say, man, I get a hand on this. And so on day 8, I go back to what I did on day 1. I haven't failed. I'm still committed to changing my behavior, but we have slip ups along the line. And so if you're in a relationship with someone who understands that, and the person says, I'm going to stop lying, receive the fact that they're going to stop lying, learn how to start trusting them. But you can't say, well, you messed up one time, it's all over. Or you can. It
Mhm.
depends on how committed you are to the relationship or where you are in that process. And so that's got to be an individual's response.
Mhm.
But again, because I believe in a person's ability to change, and I know because when they start to change, they may not always be 100% going to do it the right way. I'd probably give them another chance. I might give them 3 other chances. I don't know. It would depend on, again, what's my level of commitment into the relationship? What are the other areas of our lives that are healthy and feel good and are right for me? Are there other areas? If there's not, I'm done, right? And so it's kind of open to an individual interpretation at that point, I think.
And it would also have to come into play what your past has
Yes.
been that you've dealt with. If you've dealt with somebody in the past that was constantly lying to you, that one time you might be done.
Mhm. And you have the right to say that.
Mhm.
Again, when we're talking about the whole balloon topic that we're talking about is green flags. And
Mhm.
so a green flag is honesty. A red flag is dishonesty.
Mhm.
How far are you going to let that red flag go on before you say I'm done? And
Mhm.
again, that's individual interpretation.
Yeah.
Because you're dealing with people and people are as individual as the day is long.
Yeah.
And like you just brought up the excellent point of what's happened in your past.
Mhm.
And I'll tell you, there are victims of domestic violence coming out of relationships who say that will never happen to me again, who may be pretty darn hardcore.
Mhm.
And so the very first time you lie to me, I'm out because I'm not doing that again.
Yeah.
Because their frame of reference, it takes them right back to that place and they don't want to be right back in that place. And I'm not telling you that's wrong.
Right.
If that's the way that you have healed from your relationship and the attitude that you're taking forward, I'm not going to tell you that's wrong.
Mhm. How about maybe 2 or 3 years down the road, just you turn the corner downtown as you're walking somewhere, and there is that person, and they say, I have been working on this so hard because I want to get back into a relationship with you. Can we at least start being friends and
Hmm.
maybe hang out once a week or two, once or twice a week, and you can see my behavior has changed?
It's up to the person.
Mhm.
What I told you before about build trust, it's like getting into a hot bathtub.
Mhm.
And so if the person's like, you know what, I really did appreciate this part of our relationship and I really do enjoy your company. Yes, I'm willing to give it a try. But it's like getting into a hot bathtub. You stick your big toe in there till it gets comfortable, and then you put the rest of your toes in there and you slowly, step by step, each part of your body as it gets acclimated to the heat until you sit down in the tub. And
Right.
that's how you build trust with somebody you've lost trust with.
Mhm.
And it can be done, but you have to be committed to building that trust, and 2, the other person has to be committed to being trustworthy, and it
Mhm.
can be done.
Mhm. That's
On the
good.
other hand, there may be a person who's like, nope, you had your shot and you blew it, and
Mhm.
they have a right to feel that way too.
Mhm. And if that other person that had done the lying comes and approaches that other person continually because they still have the same phone number and continually badger them through text and through phone calls and voicemail and etc. Um, and that person continues to say no,
Yeah.
no, no. I said no and I mean no. And I cannot, for my personal peace of mind, I cannot give you another chance. You're
Mhm.
going to need to move on with your life.
Yeah. And so the world that we live on with the way our technology is, you go, block,
Yes.
because you won't stop bothering me, so I'm gonna have to take the bull by the horns and now you can't bother me because I just blocked your number. I mean, and
Right.
we advise people to do that all of the time. If
Mhm.
you got an abuser who's stalking you or harassing you, it's a pain sometimes to have to change your phone number. So just block that person so they can't continue to harass you.
Yep.
We've made it pretty simple with technology in our world today. In the old days, phone rang, you took it when he answered it.
Yeah.
Before answering machines, right? I don't know who's
Yep.
calling.
Yep.
Then we got caller answering machines, so then we could listen, and then
Mhm.
we decide if we wanted to talk. Then we got caller ID.
Woo!
You have to wait for the answering machine. And now today we just say block and we're done.
Yep.
But
Technology can be a very good thing.
yes, technology has helped us over the years for sure.
Definitely. Very definitely.
Let's talk for a second about equality. Because healthy relationships, if you're looking for a green flag in a healthy relationship, you're talking about equalness. And so, what do you think equality looks like in a healthy relationship?
Both partners have the ability to weigh in on a decision. Do we buy a house now or do we keep saving up for another year? Do we go ahead and keep driving this older car or wait until after we've bought the house? And then after a couple of years, then we'll save up for a down payment on a car and we'll go get a different car. They're both equal. One of them does not make the final decision.
Yes. And both opinions are valid.
Mm-hmm.
Both opinions are listened to.
Mm-hmm.
When you're approaching decisions with equality, you don't come into the conversation with the votes in your pocket.
Right.
You may have a preconceived notion of what you want the outcome to be,
Mm-hmm.
but you're also open to being swayed in the other direction.
Mm-hmm.
You hold each other to the exact same standard.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's good.
And so, there's not that double standard of, well, you have the right to vote 3 times, but I can only vote once. Or because I make more money than you, when it's all said and done, it's ultimately my decision.
Mm-hmm.
No, you still look at the resources that you have together in your relationship, and you
Mm-hmm.
both have a say so over those resources.
That's good.
So that's what an equal relationship looks like. Um, no opinion is more valid than the other person's opinion. So then in an unhealthy relationship, when you're talking about equality, there could be an element of control that starts to come in. My opinion matters more than yours. Not necessarily taking power and control over you, but you come at it from that controlling standpoint. Well, I make $500 more a week than you do, so I can determine what happens with that $500. Or, hey, I've got this job offer and I want to take it. And then the other spouse, but we have to move. And the other spouse says, well, I don't want to move. And so then the one who brought it up says, well, you never let me do anything anyway, and storms off. That's unhealthy.
Okay.
Instead of giving the other person the opportunity to say, this is how I feel, this is what I think about it, or these are my concerns, the other person just storms off angrily. That's unhealthy.
Mm-hmm.
Because then the message is communicated that your concerns aren't valid. I want to agree with you, so I'm going to do what I want to do. It causes that whole disruption. Again, that still doesn't necessarily have to be considered abusive, but it's one person in the relationship thinking that what they want or what they need is more important than what the other person wants or needs. And so that's where
that's a fine, yeah, it's a fine line.
Yeah, so that's where the inequality comes in. And so it may not be I'm trying to maintain power and control over you, but I feel like I'm more important than you.
Mm-hmm.
It's completely unhealthy.
Mm-hmm.
And so then that element of equality doesn't even exist in an abusive relationship. It just looks like control. It's 100% control, 100% inequality. There's no such thing as we're in an equal partnership. It's my way or the highway. You will do what I say when I say it in the way that I say that you will do it. If I want to move, we will move. If I want to buy a house, we will buy a house. If I want to buy a car, we will buy a car. You can't, if I don't want you to see that person, you don't see that person. I mean, it's all the tactics of power and control that we've talked about in multiple episodes. It's completely a one-sided relationship.
Very
And
definitely.
so the victim of an abuser can't even say, but I don't want to move.
Mhm.
I don't want to move away from my family.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, the response to that is a slap. You're going to do what I say. I mean, that's what it looks like in an abusive relationship. So in an unhealthy relationship, that control is just coming across as what I want is more important than what you want. So there's a devaluing or a demeaning, but it's not necessarily to maintain power and control. It's just I'm the man, so I get to say what I want if it's the man saying it. But in an abusive relationship, the other person is not entitled to have an opinion at all.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's my job, my money. I make the decisions.
Right. Exactly.
Abusive. Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about setting boundaries. Should we
Okay.
do that in another episode?
Yeah, let's do that in another episode, maybe.
So there's one thing that I wanted to share a little bit as we're going through some of these, because when I was researching this, I found a website where the title of the website or the title of the question was, what do green flags look like for you? And so I found it super interesting. It's just a bunch of people with their initials. I don't know their names. And they've said, this is what a green flag is for me. So I thought I'd share a couple of them with you.
I love that.
One person says, a green flag for me respects a no. That's all it says. I can say no, and the other person is okay with that. Another person's green flag says, my partner doesn't flip out when I express an opinion or a feeling.
Oh, that's good. Yep.
This is my favorite one, I think, out of all of them. This person said, we're the same person in public and private.
Bingo. Hit the nail on the head. Yep.
Right? Because how many times have we talked about Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde?
Yep.
Yeah, and
Yep.
so I think that's a really good one. Let me share two more. Accepts who you are as an individual. That's a green flag we've already talked about. And then so this is a female talking about what a green flag is for her. Doesn't blame the woman for why past relationships didn't work. So instead of saying, well, my girlfriend was crazy, doesn't blame the woman, doesn't belittle me in public or private, and doesn't mind attending family gatherings, which I thought was interesting.
That is very interesting.
Yeah. So when you're in an unhealthy relationship, there may be a hesitancy to want to go to family gatherings. When you're in an abusive relationship, there may be a requirement.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or almost required that you will lie as to why they're not there.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
You just have to tell everybody that I'm sick or I had to work overtime or whatever.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Yeah. So we've got 3 more of these to talk about. So we may have to stay tuned for one more episode.
And
We
you
have
know,
a
I
few more to
love
talk
that.
about.
Yeah, I love that because this is really breaking it down and taking our time with each one so that we can all learn just exactly what these different aspects mean, different kinds of
Yes.
relationships. I love it.
Actually, let me share one more quote because I like this one too.
Yes.
When I was dating my husband, he said he would never raise his voice to me. Married 8 years to my safe man. That's what it says.
Oh, I love that.
So that goes back to following through on what the person said. That's a good green flag.
I love that green flag. Thank you.
Yeah.
And you know what? Speaking of flags, you know what we have not done through all these episodes we've recorded tonight?
I know. I know what we haven't done.
What haven't we done? Show me.
The universal signal for help. Do you know what it
Yes,
is?
I do. But
What is it?
I want you to show it to me.
Open your hand,
Mm-hmm.
tuck your thumb inside your hand, and close your 4 fingers over the top. If you see somebody doing this, it's a quiet cry for help.
Mm-hmm.
Either they're being held against their will, either they're being taken somewhere they don't want to go, they're with a person who's not a safe person for them, and they're saying, please help me.
Mm-hmm. Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Everybody needs to know that.
They do. It's important for us in case we ever need help. And it's also great to teach children, grandchildren, little kids in the neighborhood, whatever, but to let them know that that is not something we mess around with and we just do this just for fun, no. Because what this means is somebody's going to call the police and you want it to be for real. You don't want it to be something that you're going to get in trouble for.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, folks, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We appreciate that. And we hope that you will like, subscribe, share if you're on Facebook. And remember, please, that no matter where you are in this process, because we've discussed a lot, no matter where you are in this process, you're always free to soar.